It's definitely a relief rally of sorts for the auto industry, and that's because of this tweet sent by the president this morning. And we'll talk more about why some are saying, well, do we really have a deal here? The president said China has agreed to reduce and remove tariffs on cars coming into China from the U.S. Currently, the tariff is 40%. Certainly, this is good news for the two European automakers who have plants here in the U.S., build SUVs, and then send them over to China. We're talking about BMW and Daimler. They are the two largest exporters of vehicles built in the U.S. and then sent over to China. This is also good news for Tesla. China is the world's #1 market when it comes to electric vehicles. Its growth is going to dwarf everybody else's in the years to come. Tesla needs to sell more in China. If the tariffs come down, that will certainly help them until they get their plant built over there. One last thing to keep in mind as you take a look at the auto stocks, and today is auto sales day, and as we show you some of the sales numbers from November of this year compared to November of last year, a couple of things to keep in mind. One, with regard to auto sales, we're going to see a pretty strong pace when the final number is announced a little bit later on today. A little over 17 million vehicles is the pace for the month of November. The other thing is that we haven't heard confirmation about this trade deal with regard to autos and China. Larry Kudlow said in a briefing with reporters, I think about an hour ago, guys, that he wouldn't be surprised if we ultimately see zero auto tariffs on anything sent into China, not just from the United States, but around the world. That would have huge implications for the auto industry. So as we see what happens over the weeks to come, I'll be focused on whether or not we see 40% come down to 15%, which it is for the rest of the world, or if it ultimately goes down to zero, which is what has been suggested by Larry Kudlow.
It's an interesting time for this industry, Phil. I mean, we've got European auto execs scheduled to be at the White House tomorrow as well. Is there any sense as to what could be on the docket for that meeting? Well,
according to the briefing that Larry Kudlow gave this afternoon to reporters at the White House, they are not focused on tariffs for the European automakers. What the White House would like to see is a commitment by the German automakers to build their engines here in the United States, because right now they're built in Germany and then exported from Germany and into the United States. The Trump administration is saying, why don't you put a couple of those plants over here, build those engines here in the United States? Obviously would add manufacturing and add jobs here in the U.S.
Hey, Phil, before you go, there was a crazy story over the weekend out of California about the Tesla.
Yeah.
I mean, the Model S, the guy apparently falls asleep at the wheel. The police have to figure out how to bring the car to a stop because the car can keep driving itself, right? Give us the details.
Right, and what they did, once they determined that the driver was asleep, the California Highway Patrol, one squad car went in front of the Model S, and as it slowed down, obviously the driver assist from the vehicle, from the Model S, kept it from running into the back of the squad car. They did this all the way until they could get the vehicle to stop. They then arrested the driver for driving under the influence. What is interesting here is that the Model S, the autopilot, it's supposed to disengage unless you occasionally grab the wheel. You know, it's not supposed to stay engaged unless you are showing that you are alert and have your hands on the wheel. So what happened in this case?
Or
a lot of questions that people are looking to have answered.
Well, and we're thinking it through here. I mean, I can certainly see a case where you're engaged just enough to be touching the wheel and that kind of, state of mind, but you're not actually.
True.
It's weird because you're in a way, these are good. It's a good safety backup thing. But then you think about, wait a minute, are people going to start to abuse this knowing, hey, all right, I had one too many, but it's all right, I got a Tesla to take me home.
Right, and if you talk with people in the insurance industry, this question has come up, not just with Tesla, but with all the automakers. When you have self-driving vehicles, who's responsible if a driver gets in and they've had too much to drink and they're not really driving, the car is driving, so can they get a DUI? And when you talk to people in the insurance industry, they say it. You get behind the wheel, you're responsible, whether or not the vehicle's driving or you're driving.
Is your rate higher or lower if you have autopilot? I think that'd be a question, right?
That's a good question, yeah.